Thank you. It's Monday, November 28th. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole. Tonight we'll be discussing one item on the agenda, and since it's a motion that I presented, I am going to go by the rules of order and have Arthur Guinasso run this meeting. Goes in alphabetical order.
I always thought it was the most senior.
That's all right.
No. I was going to say, Arthur's clearly the most senior here.
He's the most senior. He may not be the
handsomest.
Councillor Morabito.
But Mr. Chairman,
Councillor Rotundo.
if we could stand up for a moment of silence for those victims in Ohio, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank
and
you,
we
sir.
also will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please remain standing. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whereas this is a committee of the whole meeting, every member of the City Council is to participate. The maker of the motion is Steve Morabito. Would you like to speak first?
Yep. So I brought this motion up only because our ordinances and state law says we should appoint a Human Rights Commission. There was nothing that provoked this motion. It was just a motion because I wanted to follow the law and make sure a committee was appointed. This wouldn't affect how the police department does their job. Everyone would continue to call the police if a law was violated. This is just to ensure that everyone's rights within the city are upheld. Thank you.
Any other members of the council wishing to speak? Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find it rhetorically unsound, but it amazes me that we're fighting over something where literally 90% of all the communities that have the Human Rights Commission, as you so put it, in fact, Chelsea, Everett, so forth, are dormant. You can look it up on the website yourself. I'm more ardent about that than about having people live and work in our city. The residency clause. I've never seen someone so more ardent about this. In fact, what we called earlier, the three musketeers of no, or something to that effect. The issue is, when do you want to follow the rules? When they apply to you or when they apply to somebody else? I wish we all, applied the rules equally and followed them accordingly, the ordinances that I'm talking about, but that isn't the case.
With that said, yes, we should follow the rules and ordinances. We should follow the ordinances, and this is why I'm asking that we follow the ordinance and appoint a committee, which will be appointed by the mayor and approved through the city council.
So basically, you're doing the mayor's bidding. You're basically looking for
Speak to
a
the chair,
solution.
Councilors,
What I'm doing is
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Please speak through the chair.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So basically, you're looking a solution for a problem. I mean, because at this point, tell me what the mayor or what is this particular ordinance that you're going to, quote, reenact, going to perform? What duties are you going to perform? Other than that you're going to use it as a political baseball bat to go after people that don't fit your same genre. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Not true. Through you,
Well, that's your
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor
Through you.
Morabito,
I actually would like to implement this before something occurs. Far too often, we as a city council and other people throughout the state, we act when something wrong goes on. So why not take the proactive approach and abide by the law and appoint a committee, and that's that. There's no reason why we should even be having this dialogue.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
There's no gray area. It's black or white. Follow the law or don't follow the law. All I'm asking is that the mayor abide by the ordinance and appoint a committee. That's it.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Rotundo.
I find it funny. You want the mayor to abide by the rules.
I don't, through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't find
Wait,
anything
wait,
funny
Council-
about
Council-
human
Council-
rights.
hold on,
I don't
hold on.
find anything,
Councilor Morabito, you're out of order. You're out of order, Councilor Morabito. Councilor Zambudo, everything's under control here. Councilor Rotundo, you have the floor at this particular time.
I find it ironic that he's making the conjecture that we don't want to, we want to be prepared for, we want to be proactive. You're not a police force. You're not a attorney general. You have no authority. Zero. None. Nothing. You're not even a reporter mandator. I am. You're not. And if anybody who sees human rights atrocities up here has been me and probably Charlie because he's been in war. And yet you're the one who's going to charge the fight here. I wish it would have been so strong, so vehement, so full of vigor when it came to the issue of residency here. You know,
Councilor,
but
stick to the issue, please.
I am. Thank you.
Any other councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. What are you, Chairman?
Chairman.
Okay. Senior officer, senior counselor? This is a good point. Of course, we're all for human rights on this, that sit on this board, I'm sure, this council. But, you know, as Councilor Rotundo says, other towns, it's been dominant, it's been non-existing, it's on the books, but nobody's been using it. And I, as my, you know, from my experience as being on the police department, I mean, it's been by, first of all, this was first voted in the city as an ordinance during Councilor Haas when he was mayor in the 90s. I believe the last appointment was made in like 1999. So you're talking over, you know, 20 years of no violations. But just for a point of information, the police department has had plenty of incidents where they had human rights violations that has been reported to them, and they've been handled through the police department. You know, if you want to make 11, you know, all it does is give the mayor 11 appointments. It's still going to be the police department. It's going to handle the violation. The committee itself, the Human Rights Committee that's formed, I don't know how many rights authority they have. You know, if I'm a policeman or a fireman, you know, I'm a little wary about putting this board active just so 11 guys can get appointments. Because, you know, some of these human rights violations will probably go to public. You know, I'm the public safety chairman, and I'm very concerned about police and firemen who have violations, that might have violations put against them. And I think the chiefs for the past, since 1990, whatever was put in, have handled the violations quite well. So, you know, if you want 11 members, I'm just weary about making government a little bigger and having a committee out there with really not much authority. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in the 90s, I formed this Human Rights Commission I guess Tom Ambasino appointed some people after me, and it basically died from that point on. So I guess the issue is, do we want to reestablish the Human Rights Commission or not? That's basically the bottom line. So, I would like to formulate the Human Rights Commission if the council goes along with me. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start off by saying I intend to put a motion in to abolish this from the city ordinances. So that's aside from what I'm going to say now, because I'm going to say my piece and that'll be the end of it. I see this as a solution in search of a problem. We've had this commission since 1995. Show me a problem. Show me where there's a problem. What this is, it ends up being 11 appointments for a mayor, whoever the mayor is. And listen, I get along fine with this new mayor, as everybody knows. But this gives the mayor 11 appointments, and my colleague to my right called it just right. These kind of commissions end up being used as a political baseball bat against opponents. People may disagree with that, but this is, in my opinion, and I'm going to be blunt, this is more politically correct bull crap. That's what I consider these kind of things. Now, I know that's blunt language, and some people will be offended by it, but I got to call it truth, the truth. This is just more bureaucracy that we don't need. If there was a problem, I'd be 100% behind it. We've had no problems. This is the kind of politically correct communities like Cambridge and Somerville put these in, and they love it, because they've got a Human Rights Commission. Listen, we don't have problems here. When we do, we take care of them. So, I'm totally against this. I just don't see any reason. There's no necessity for this. Nobody can show me any abuses. If somebody could, I would say, I'm for it. But they can't. This is just, like I said, politically correct, you know what. So I'm against it, and even if it passes, I'm going to eventually put in a motion to abolish this from our ordinances. Thank you.
Point of information, you can try to abolish this, but through you, Mr. Chair. A point of information, you can try to abolish this. This is something mandated. This is mandated by the state. It is. Look it up. Did you do your research? I did. And I'm sure Councilor Rotundo did. And it is mandated by the state.
Councilor Rotundo is asked to speak again. Any other councilors that hadn't spoken yet wish to speak? Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To your point, Councilor Zambudo, and I don't mean to beleaguer this, but this can be affirmed and validated by the two people that I will speak of. When there was a human rights issue here in the city of Revere, one pertaining in which Muslims were being attacked and people were writing things on leaflets and passing them out down the Shirley Ave area, it was me who went to Chief Caffarel in the FBI. Me, not you. When Corey Abrams was attacked for being Jewish when he ran for office, it was me who came to his defense, not you.
Point of information, this is pure grandstanding. This has nothing to do with you or I. This has, through you, Mr. Chairman, this has to do with following the law.
Excuse me, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo.
So there were...
The game plan here is we don't personally attack it. If you just state your views...
I don't believe I attacked anybody by saying...
Just state your views, that's it.
I don't believe I was attacking anybody. I was making the point that when it came to standing up for people, it was me that did it. And I want to point out to
because you are our savior, right?
Councilor Morabito,
I
you're
want
out
to
of
point
order.
out to Councilor Zambudo that there have been issues in the city in the past. And unfortunately, you're so small-minded.
Well, no, excuse me. Excuse me.
Councilor, let's refrain from that kind of dialogue here.
Treat me with the respect that I'm treating you with,
You're going to get the respect
please.
you so deserve. Councilor Rotundo, you're out of order. Your conversation is over at this particular time. Any other councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to put my peace of mind in this, and I support Councilor Morabito in his actions to have this will and want for this commission, especially since former mayor and city council, the current city councilor, was one to enact this years ago. But I do have a little bit of a struggle, and I just want to put this out there. I do have a little bit of a struggle with an 11-person commission, and I do agree. Sometimes these commissions can be, and this isn't just the current administration, any administration likes to have lots of appointments. This goes for the state as well. They like to have all their friends in their groups, and they become, battering rams, political battering rams. And I think there's a place for political correctness. I'm not necessarily certain, and I just want to make sure you know that we need an 11-person commission. Most likely, I would probably be not in favor of that because of an 11-person commission on something that it's right and wrong. It's things that, like we've talked about, our police force can handle, and the city council can handle in certain ways, or our school departments can handle. But I think that the intent is very well thought, and you did a lot of work on this. So I don't know why there's so much back and forth, and I would think that we could all agree a little bit more. And some of the great work that Councilor Rotundo did, maybe if there was a commission, we should appoint you to it, Councilor Rotundo. I'd be a proponent for that. So. I just wanted to state my.
Thank you, Councilor. Appreciate that. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to applaud Stephen for bringing this out and to the public. But again, I agree with Councilor Keefe, Patch, Rotundo, and Zambuto. When I was a teacher for 33 years, the school department handled their own problems. I know the police department handles their own problems. I know the firefighters handle their own problems. I have to applaud you. I think your effort was tremendous, but I hate to disagree with you because I love you, but I have to vote this down. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other councilors wishing to speak? I will go back to my seat and I will speak on it if the president would take over.
Mr. Chairman, can I just
Councilor
give a
Zambuto.
point? I just want to make sure that this isn't taken as any kind of a personal attack against my colleague, because I do respect all the work he's done in this. I just disagree, but there is in no way am I trying to put any dispersion on him. He did a great job. He did a lot of research, and he cares passionately about it, as I do against it. But it's absolutely not personal, and I don't want anybody to think that.
Thank you very much, Council, for those words. I think that redeems a lot of what was said, and I think that now we can just go, speak the objective and go forward. Madam President?
Thank you. As soon as you get settled in, Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Madam President. Obviously, this is a position that all of us should be in, because this is why we're here, to make decisions of this nature. I think that, as was alluded to earlier, there already is a commission somewhat in place, whereas there's a body of 11. And that was established back in the Hess administration. The Ambrosino administration carried on with it somewhat. But I also look and I hear and I understand that from these past several years, and I with firsthand knowledge, that we haven't really had any concern or any major disagreements within our community, that people of all faiths and all religions and all races and all creeds haven't been treated fairly. There might be pockets of a couple of people that renegades that go about causing all kinds of problems for everybody, not only in this community. They're everywhere. Those types of individuals are everywhere. But for most part, this community, this city, the mayors serving prior to Mayor Arrigo, and the councilors sitting prior to us, all handled the job effectively. They've all done the job to be fair to each and every of our citizens of our community. And I think we should all hold our heads high on that, because we have held a kind of city that we should. We have a very diversified city. And speaking to the superintendent a couple of years ago, Superintendent Dakin, he said, if I could believe it, 100 different nationalities are at Revere High School. We haven't really had any situations occurring at Revere High School with any kind of effect that would be disturbing to for our community. I just think that it's a very fair practice for the Revere Police Department to handle their control.
I think it's a very fair practice for the Revere Fire Department to handle their control. And same token, Revere Public Schools handle their department for their control. With the city council and the mayor of our city with the oversight review. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, if we feel more comfortable with a commission, I think 11 in number is quite large. I think maybe 4 or 5 could do the job. I don't know why you need 11, but I think in terms of one of the councilors speaking that everybody in our country today wants less government. And that we all should be beneficial to. We all feel that we want less government. We want less government oversight. But there's times in our process of living that we need some sort of guidance and oversight. And that we have in place already. We have a city council and we have a mayor and his staff. So I think the city's well covered. Do we need this extra measure of government? I don't know. It makes people happy, fine. It's not a real big issue and not a real big deal. We're not going to take anyone's power away. We're always going to rely on the police chief, the fire chief, and the superintendent of schools for their guidance when it comes to those directions. And then the rest of the community, we can take care of. But I just think that we're making too much out of this, and we're making it too political, and we just went through months of seeing what the political process has done to our state and our country, and it's not good. It's not good for each and every one of us. It brings the morale down of everybody, because everybody has an opinion, and everybody has a right to their opinion. But I just think that we have enough government controls within our city right now as it is today for everybody out there in the viewing audience to not worry. Diversification's here to stay. We're going to treat everyone the same. Everyone has the same rights. And I just feel that nobody's right and nobody's wrong in this. It's just how you feel about this commission. And the commission's not going to be right and it's not going to be wrong. But I think, all due respect, I think 11 members is quite a lot. That's like starting a new football team. And so I just think that we have an opportunity here to show the community that we're with them, but we want to also show our authority as to how we came to this conclusion. And I think we did this through the practice of this subcommittee as we had today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak on this? Councillor Patch, and then Councillor Morabito will have closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam President. I just got one other point to make. First of all, believe me, there's nobody more for human rights than I am. I can just state my past record as just the 4 years in the Marines and 32 years in the police department, and 9 years on the council. The problem I have, maybe somebody can answer the question is, though, like I said the first time I spoke, my main concern is the police and the fire. When they have a complaint against them, it's usually handled by the chief. And if it has to go further, it goes to either to the Attorney General or the District Attorney's Office. And there has been human rights violations. But I want to know is if we enact this and vote on the 11 appointments, do they have control over the head of these departments and the superintendent of schools? And I just want, I think that's very important before we take a vote on this, to find out exactly who has the final say on a matter like this, because it's been handled very well since the, I've been policeman since 75, and this came into effect in the 90s, and it's been, as far as I remember, it's been handled very well, working the way it does. And I would just would hope that the department heads, the course that they take, if they find that a policeman or a fireman or a school teacher or somebody does something that requires punishment, that they take it to the next level. Now, do I think that 11 civilians on a board in charge of a human rights board have better knowledge or are more capable of handling a situation like this? I just don't think so. So I just wanted to put that out. As far, again, I've always been for human rights, and I always will be. And I just think it's been, City of Revere has handled it very well in the past. And I don't know why we want to all of a sudden change things. I mean, it's been on the books, and for some reason it just sat there. And maybe because things were the chiefs and the superintendents of schools have handled the problem very well, and there was no need of it. So, again, thank you for the time, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Patchen. I believe Councilor Haas may have some insight on some of those questions.
Yeah,
Councilor
I
Haas?
think, through you, Madam Chairman, I think Charlie brought up a good point, the lines of authority, who has the legal responsibility, et cetera. So I don't know if, Stephen, if you know the answer to that, but if not, I think we better get those answers before we pass this issue.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Councilor Morabito?
Okay, you were mayor at the time. You enacted this law. You did the research. As you know, this body, this commission would have no power over the police or the superintendent. They would act as a mediary, basically, to, if anything, if someone was discriminated or felt they were discriminated, they would take it to the commission. They would file a complaint or submit a report. They would bring it to the solicitor. The solicitor would then bring it the same body of the same order of law would occur. If it was a hate crime, you would call the cops. They would have no jurisdiction over the police. And, I'd like to, we heard so many times this evening, nothing bad has happened, nothing bad. Like I said before, far too often we react when something bad happens. And I'm just saying I'm just asking that we follow the law and appoint a commission. I noticed there was no commission. I think the mayor should abide by the ordinance and appoint one. And, I'd like to think that each and every one of us have good judgment, and our constituents vote for us because they feel we're going to best represent them or because we have good judgment. And I think we can all agree that before we make a decision and when we vote on things, we all do our research. And can I say, this isn't the first time that I brought up this motion. When Mayor Rizzo was mayor, former Mayor Rizzo, I presented this same motion, and 7 of the 11 councilors who are here voted yes. And so I'd like to think that before we make decisions, we think it out, and I'd be very surprised how people's minds can change in 2 years about whether we should follow protocol and follow the law or not. Thank you.
Thank
Madam
you, Councilor
President.
Morabito. So we are approaching the time of Councilor Keefe's Economic Development Committee meeting. We're actually almost 15 minutes into his meeting. So is it your will to leave this in committee, or would you like to vote it out this evening?
Let's do a roll call.
Madam President,
Councilor?
thank you. So I'm just trying to figure out how the process works, and I don't believe I was given that full information. How would someone handle the complaint process? How does it work?
So basically, if there was a complaint, there would be a Human Rights Commission. Obviously, the mayor would determine where the office was, or if there was an office, or how the application process would, how the submission form or submission complaint would be handled. and then it would go before the Human Rights Commission. And it would be vetted through them, and obviously with the help of the city solicitor.
So,
And I actually thought the city solicitor was supposed to be here this evening. Do you know anything
through
about
you,
that,
Madam
City
President,
Clerk?
the way that the law is set up, as it reads, is a complaint is alleged. May? So what the law requires is, as it states, is that a complaint is alleged. If a person feels aggrieved, there has no evidence, no basis in fact. As long as they feel aggrieved, they can file a human rights claim against somebody. It goes to the board. The board then determines whether that is a human rights violation. And at that point, they file a complaint against the person. That person is then notified of the complaint, and then it goes to the appropriate body, whether it be local, state, or federal. And then that person will be basically tried, either by the body or by the particular law enforcement entity, provided there was a crime that was committed. And the reason why I don't want this commission here is because I can see somebody doing that to somebody else for political purposes, making the complaint, and that person being put up in the newspaper saying, Tony Zambuto, George Rotundo, and Mickey Mouse are now violating someone's human rights. And they're put in the newspaper because of this frivolous claim by this frivolous body that has no legal authority whatsoever, and yet their reputations are tarnished. And that's happened time and time again from various human rights commissions throughout the state. And I'm more than happy to show you the cases and the times. And that's why I'm against this. And you can't tell me that that can't happen, because human nature is unpredictable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morabito, we are in the time of the
I'll
Economic
be really quick.
Subcommittee.
Once again, I'm not asking for anything extraordinary. I'm just asking that we follow the law. I noticed there's not a commission in place. Keep in mind, the mayor appoints it. We have good judgment here on the council. We approve the appointments on the council. I'd like to think we all have good judgment. And once again, I just want to abide by the ordinance and appoint a committee.
Thank
Roll
you,
call.
Councillor. So at this time, we'll call the roll. This is a roll call of the committee of the whole. This would still have to be voted out by the city council later at the 6 o'clock meeting. Madam Clerk?
On the motion, Councillor Granasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Haas? No. Councillor Keefe?
No.
No. Councillor McKenna?
No?
No. Councillor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Novoselsky is absent. Councillor Patch?
No.
No. Councillor Powers is absent. Councillor Rotundo? No. Councillor Zambuto?
No.
No. And Council President Giannino?
No.
No. The motion fails.
Wow, you guys.
This time, we'll take a brief recess, and the Economic Subcommittee meeting will be starting momentarily.